Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Zhou Zhou looked at the kingdom token in the shop and felt a little emotional. He had originally planned to ask the Night Temple about the kingdom token later. He did not expect to see it here first. Just as well, it saved him from owing the Night Temple a favor. Thinking of this, he looked at his personal information on the Lord battlefield. Title: Lord of the Blazing Sun. Rank: Mythical Tier Elementary Grade. Number of rankings tries: 22. Battlefield points: 440,004. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. He had rushed up all the way. He had earned a lot of points on the battlefield alone, ignoring everything else. He could exchange for many things, and so he began. A kingdom token worth 200,000 battlefield points? I'll buy it. A low-tier divine tier hero inheritance manual worth 100,000 battlefield points? I'll buy it. The index of all races, Book 8 and Book 9, that were worth 15,000 battlefield points? It's not a big deal. I'll buy it directly. In addition, there were extraordinary tier and epic tier master servant territory contracts that he bought for 54,000 battlefield points. In the future, if he encountered a chance to subdue extraordinary tier and epic tier territories, this treasure could be used directly. However, Zhou Zhou felt that the probability of such a thing happening at this stage was very low. Therefore, there was a high chance that these high-level items would only be useful in the later stages. As for the last 3 gradeless territory fusion certificates, he also spent 30,000 battlefield points to buy them. At this moment, Zhou Zhou had already spent 399,000 battlefield points and had only 41,004 battlefield points left. At this moment, the only valuable item left in the battlefield shop was a legendary tier master servant territory contract worth 100,000 battlefield points. This thing was too expensive. Zhou Zhou could not buy it for the time being. I can't help but spend these battlefield points. Zhou Zhou sighed. However, he did not feel that he had suffered a loss. The things he bought were all very valuable goods after all. Then, he looked at the details of these items. Firstly, it was the kingdom token that Zhou Zhou had been thinking about. Treasure name: Kingdom token. Treasure grade: Extraordinary tier advanced grade. Treasure effect: you can have the basic qualifications to build a kingdom with the kingdom token. Treasure description: certificate to establish a kingdom. Unfortunately, it's only a basic qualification. If only I could build a kingdom directly. Zhou Zhou thought greedily. Then, he looked at the low-tier deity-level Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. Treasure name: Hero Inheritance Secret Manual. Grade: Low-level deity advanced grade. Treasure ability: after using it, you can obtain the inheritance of a hero that suits your race. Introduction: a treasure created by the Supreme Will. It is connected to the River of Time. After using it, the user can obtain the hero inheritance of his race who has the fate level slot of a lesser god. Zhou Zhou's eyes widened. This is actually different from the hero inheritance secret manual he had obtained previously. It was not the inheritance of a certain hero. Instead, he obtained the inheritance of a hero that matched his race. Zhou Zhou quickly realized the value of this slightly different hero inheritance. Not only could it be used by humans, it could also be used by life forms of other races. For example, Nazario. At the thought of this, Zhou Zhou could not help but feel excited. He and his subjects had seen how powerful Nazario was. It could be said that Nazario played a supremely important role in the development of his territory. This was only because Nazario was already so strong before he became a hero. If Nazario became a hero, wouldn't he take off immediately? Zhou Zhou had never even thought about the flaws of the hero inheritance. If this hero inheritance secret manual was only at the epic tier or legendary tier, naturally, Zhou Zhou would not give it to Nazario for the sake of a temporary increase in combat strength. However, this hero inheritance secret manual was a low-tier deity-level treasure. Nazario only had legendary tier potential. The benefits of Nazario using this hero inheritance secret manual were naturally greater than the disadvantages. As for the path that Nazario would take after becoming a low-tier deity, firstly, This matter was too far away. There was no need to worry about something so far away now. Secondly, it was still the same thing. At that time, with Zhou Zhou's lord talent, he might be able to obtain an opportunity to advance Nazario. Therefore, there was a high chance that he did not have to worry about such a thing. I'll give the hero inheritance to Nazario when I return tonight, Zhou Zhou thought. He still had to go out to conquer the White Silver Tier regional territories. He still needed Nazario to hold down the fort. There was naturally no need to mention the 8th and 9th volumes of the Index of All Races. The Extraordinary Tier Master Servant Territory Contract and the Epic Tier Master Servant Territory Contract could turn an Extraordinary Tier or Epic Tier Lord's territory into their subordinate territory with the agreement of the other party's lord. Then, Zhou Zhou's gaze landed on the last gradeless territory fusion certificate. These were 3 rectangular golden contracts with strange words that he could easily understand even though he could not understand them. The general meaning was that the fusion of the territory had been notarized by the supreme will. Even the god spirits could not stop and change it. Moreover, they had to admit that the existence of this fusion territory was reasonable. Zhou Zhou pondered. What he wanted to do was not to use these 3 territory fusion certificates now. Instead, he was thinking about something else. These 3 gradeless territory fusion certificates can fuse any 2 regional territories bordering each other. Which means, even legendary tier, epic tier, and even low tier and higher level regional territories can be obtained through this gradeless territory fusion certificate. It feels a little wasteful if I use it now. Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. The blazing sun desert he was in currently bordered a total of 4 regions. They were the Sandgold Land, the Black Iron Tier Regional Territory in the north, the Eastern Black Iron Tier Regional Territory, Thorn Dune, Fish Spring Town, the Green Bronze Tier Territory that occupied the west and southwest, as well as the Green Bronze Tier Calamity Zone in the south, the Sandstorm Forbidden Zone. If he used the gradeless territory fusion certificate now, he could only fuse with the Sandgold Land and Thorn Dune that bordered the blazing sun desert. This would definitely waste the value of a treasure like the gradeless territory fusion certificate. Zhou Zhou thought for a while and called Aaliyah over. "Help me invite Princess Leo over," he said. "Yes, my lord," Aaliyah said respectfully. Then, she walked out of the room to look for Leah. Soon, Aaliyah brought Leah and her maid, Yu Qiao, over. "My lord, why are you looking for us?" Leah said in surprise. "Your Highness, do you know about the Territory Fusion Certificate?" Zhou Zhou asked. "Territory Fusion Certificate? I know." Leah nodded. Then, he smiled. "My lord, didn't I tell you? You don't have to be so polite. Just call me Leah. Then call me Zhou Zhou too." Zhou Zhou did not pay much attention to addressing her. "Okay." Leah smiled and asked curiously, "Why do you suddenly want to ask about the Territory Fusion Certificate?" "I want to increase the level of my territory. I heard that the Territory Fusion Certificate can do this, so I asked." Zhou Zhou said, "I see. The Territory Fusion Certificate can indeed do this. If you want, I can ask my father to send some over," Leah said after hearing this. Zhou Zhou was stunned. "Send some over? Did I misunderstand something? The Territory Fusion Certificate is not a precious thing, but an ordinary treasure? That's not good. It's too valuable. But it's fine if we can purchase it through transactions." Zhou Zhou shook his head. "Even though high-level Territory Fusion Certificates are precious treasures, our Aurora Kingdom can still give out some low-level Territory Fusion Certificates." Leah smiled. "Low-level Territory Fusion Certificate? Are there different quality Territory Fusion Certificates?" Zhou Zhou caught the main point of the other party's words, and his eyes lit up. "Of course. The Territory Fusion Certificate has different qualities. For example, the Black Iron Tier Territory Fusion Certificate can only fuse the 2 connected territories of the Black Iron Tier. A White Silver Tier Territory Fusion Certificate can only allow territory below the White Silver Tier to fuse with each other. And so on and so forth. Even though our Aurora Kingdom is only an ordinary human kingdom, it's not a problem to give away some Territory Fusion Certificates below the White Platinum Tier quality." Leah smiled. Zhou Zhou was pleasantly surprised. So the territory fusion certificate really had different grades? Then his 3 territories that could fuse any 2 connected territories proved that they were really treasures. He could stop using them for the time being and use the low-level territory fusion certificates that Leah mentioned. How did you obtain the territory fusion certificate? Can you tell me? Zhou Zhou asked curiously. It's not inconvenient. It's no secret. The territory fusion certificate can be dropped by the fog monsters themselves. However, its drop rate is extremely low, and it won't only drop on one kind of fog monster. For example, our Aurora Kingdom has been established for nearly 600 years and has killed more than 1 billion fog monsters. However, the territory fusion certificates that dropped only add up to 300 to 400 copies. Moreover, most of the territory fusion certificates are only low-level territory fusion certificates. This is because it's not only a problem of low drop rate, but the probability of it appearing is also extremely low. Leah sighed. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. It turned out that the appearance and drop rate of the territory fusion certificate were so low. No wonder he had never seen a loot like the territory fusion certificate, even with a 100% drop rate after leading his army to eliminate many fog monsters. I'll write a letter today and ask Father to send over some territorial fusion certificates at the white platinum tier and below. Leah said. Thank you. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. The territory fusion certificate at the white platinum tier and below matched his needs. After that, Zhou Zhou and Leah chatted about the construction progress of the Aurora Kingdom Tower. To his surprise, Leah said that the talent she had brought with her had completed all the construction goals quite smoothly during the construction of the Diamond Tier Elementary Grade Aurora Tower with Zhao Changshu. Moreover, the speed at which the Aurora Tower was built was faster than anyone had expected. The first Diamond Elementary Grade Aurora Tower in his territory would probably be completed tonight. After Zhou Zhou heard her, he quickly thought of a territory buff that he had almost forgotten. That was the Green Bronze Tier Ancestral Enhancement given by Liu Ban in the Imperial Ancestral Temple. Heart of the Craftsman. Ancestral Enhancement. Heart of the Craftsman. Grade. Green Bronze Tier. Enhancement Effect 1. Increase the efficiency of war machinery manufacturing in the territory by 30%. Enhancement Effect 2. Construction efficiency of the territory plus 10%. Blessing Description. A blessing from China's ancestor, Gong Shubun. The Aurora Tower is both a war machine and a territory building. That's why Elder Zhao and the others built the Diamond Tier Elementary Grade Aurora Tower so quickly. Zhou guessed. He was naturally very happy. The faster the Diamond Elementary Grade Aurora Tower was built, the stronger his territory would be, and his ability to resist risks would naturally be stronger. Moreover, Zhou Zhou thought of something. After this Diamond Elementary Grade Aurora Tower was completed, he could completely use it to replace the Dragon Slaying Will and increase his rank in the Lord Battlefield. This way, he would not have to use the Dragon Slaying Will to greatly reduce the possibility of him being exposed. He could also legitimately continue to increase his rank on the Lord Battlefield. The Diamond Tier Elementary Grade Aurora Tower can already threaten extraordinary tier enemies. I wonder if I can deal with the top 10 abnormal lords. Zhou Zhou thought. While he felt that the Diamond Elementary Grade Aurora Tower was very strong, he had never underestimated other mythical tier lords. He could have such an opportunity after all. Why couldn't the other lords? Then, he did not say anything else. After that, Zhou Zhou and Leah chatted for a while before separating. After they walked back, Zhou Zhou asked Leah to call Zhao Changshu over. Then, he took out 7 building blueprint fragments from his spatial ring. They were the 7 building blueprint fragments of the Triumphal Arch. Zhou Zhou looked at them. Soon, a text notification appeared. Do you want to fuse? Yes, Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. The next second, he saw the 7 blueprints floating up one by one. Their edges emitted a golden light, then the 7 blueprints fused together and turned into a thin green booklet. It was the complete blueprint of the race building, Triumphal Arch. It's finally complete. Zhou Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. It was not easy to gather this complete blueprint. He glanced at the building information. Construction blueprint name, Triumphal Arch. Construction blueprint level, special, unique. Construction blueprint effect, Triumph Glory. When the Lord and his military professional subject return victorious after the war and pass through the Triumphal Arch, if the promotion energy in the Lord and his military professional subject has already accumulated to more than 80%, there is a 50% chance of directly obtaining the promotion energy that is lacking and directly obtaining a breakthrough in Strength Realm. Construction blueprint description. The blueprint of the human race on Cerulean planet. Good news arrived from the battlefield yesterday for the triumphant return of the army today. Construction requirement: 10 million units of wood, 10 million units of fine sand, 10 million units of metal, 10 million units of stone, 10,000 units of forged stainless steel, 1,000 units of adamantine, 1,000 units of mithril, 100 units of 4 elemental gemstones each, 1,000 units of yellow gold tier mist core. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. After the Triumphal Arch was built, the efficiency of his soldiers' breakthroughs would greatly increase in the future. He had all the basic materials required. As for the rare materials behind the basic materials, he happened to have a portion of the materials left from the Novice Lord test last time. The rest could also be bought from Sandgold City. At most, he would spend some mist cores, so it was not a problem at all. A moment later, Zhao Changshu was brought over. Zhou Zhou handed the blueprint to the other party. Elder Zhao, I'll give you this building blueprint. After the Diamond Elementary Grade Aurora Tower is completed, you can build another one for the Aurora Kingdom. Then, you can start building this building. Zhou Zhou said. He was not in a hurry to build the Triumphal Arch with the blessing of the War God. Moreover, he had already promised Liya and had a good relationship with the Aurora Kingdom. He did not want to be a treacherous person. Even though Liya might not say anything even if he built the Triumphal Arch first, Zhou Zhou did not want to leave the impression that he had not kept his promise. Reputation was still very important to him as a lord. Yes, my lord, Zhao Changshu said respectfully. After saying that, he could not help but look at the blueprint again. His heart trembled. It was actually another race-building blueprint. Then, he was overjoyed. As a master in the construction field, he naturally liked to build difficult buildings. His architect level would definitely increase again when he built this Triumphal Arch. Zhou Zhou knew what Elder Zhao was thinking from his expression. He smiled and asked Zhao Changshu to bring the blueprint back. Zhou Zhou asked Liya to return to her room after he left. Then, he took out his Lord Talent Crystal Fragment and prepared to upgrade his Lord Talent. Zhou Zhou first took out all his Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. There were a total of 74 Black Iron Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 796 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 3 Yellow Gold Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 14 White Platinum Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 10 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 2 Legendary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. Zhou Zhou smiled. Even though the people brought by the Night Lord today had caused him some trouble. However, if not for them, he would not have been able to obtain so many Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. Isn't it good to live well? Must you come up here to have a death wish and give me treasures? He sighed. Then, Zhou Zhou stopped thinking and began to upgrade his Lord Talent. He first fused 790 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments into 79 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystals. Just as he was about to take the next step, he was stunned. F***CK. It's actually not enough to upgrade the War God's blessing. Zhou Zhou was dumbfounded. When he obtained the 702 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments previously, he subconsciously thought that he would definitely be able to upgrade this Lord Talent with so many Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. He reacted now that he saw the number. It was impossible to fuse a yellow gold tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystal. The corners of Zhou Zhou's mouth twitched. Even though he was helpless, he could only fuse 20 green bronze tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystals first and obtain 2 white silver tier Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystals. Then, he could upgrade his green bronze tier Lord Talent, return to the city, and insight defection. A text notification appeared. As you have 3 green bronze tier Lord Talents, Gnome Alchemy Workshop, Incite Defection, and Return to the City. Please choose 2 to upgrade. I choose to update Incite Defection and Return to the City. Zhou Zhou said. The Gnome Alchemy Workshop could satisfy his needs for the time being. There was no hurry to upgrade. Lord Talent has been chosen. Upgrading in progress. The next second, he felt a strong, warm feeling appear between his eyebrows again. Moreover, the feeling this time was far more obvious than the previous 2 upgrades to the Lord Talent. A moment later, the warmth faded. A new text notification appeared. Lord Talent upgrade successful. Congratulations, your Black Iron Tier Lord Talent, Incite Defection, has been upgraded to Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent, Incite Defection. Congratulations, your Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent, Return to the City, has been upgraded to White Silver Tier Lord Talent, Return to the City. Your Mythical Tier Lord Talent effect is as follows. Lord Talent, Incite Defection, White Silver Tier. Incite Defection, a Lord's exclusive talent. When you fight the enemy Lord's faction head-on, you can activate the Incite Defection talent and incite 8% of the enemy Lord's faction to become your loyal subordinate. Lord Talent Hint 1. The minimum number of enemies for Incite Defection is 1 unit, and the maximum number of enemies for Incite Defection is 100,000 units. The loyalty of the enemies after Incite Defection is at least 85 points. Lord Talent Hint 2. Currently, the upper limit of the Lord faction level that you can induce Incite Defection is Extraordinary Tier Elementary Grade Lord Faction. This upper limit can grow. Lord Talent Hint 3. This talent can only be activated once a day. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. The increase in Incite Defection, which had been promoted to a White Silver Tier Lord Talent, was quite obvious. The highest increase was naturally from the original 5% Incite Defection ratio to the 8% Incite Defection ratio. Secondly, the upper limit of the number of enemies in the Incite Defection had also increased from 30,000 units to 100,000 units. The lowest loyalty of the enemies after the Incite Defection had also increased to 85 points. Finally, the upper limit of the Lord faction that could induce Incite Defection had also increased from the Diamond Tier Intermediate Grade to Extraordinary Tier Elementary Grade. I didn't level it up in vain. Zhou Zhou nodded and looked at the upgraded Return to the City. Lord Talent, Return to the City, White Silver Tier. Return to the City. No matter where you are, you will immediately return to your territory and recover 60% of your physical state in the next 10 seconds 3 seconds after chanting the designated password. You can also specify 1,000 life forms or 1,000 units of supplies to return to your territory together. If the specified person is a life form, it will recover 30% of its physical state in the next hour. Lord Talent Hint. This talent can be activated twice a day. Zhou Zhou was also very satisfied with its improvement. Other than the number of times he could use the White Silver Tier Return to the City, his other abilities had increased. In the future, the White Silver Tier Lord Talent, Return to the City, could play an even more important role by returning to help in time. Then, he put away the remaining Lord Talent Crystal fragments and the Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystal. An hour later, outside Blazing Sun City, 50,000 Blazing Sun Army soldiers were gathered here. Above their heads floated a black, disc-like spaceship. This spaceship was about 500 meters in diameter. Even though it was not as big as the previous Ranger and was only a third of its size, it still gave the soldiers on the ground a feeling that it covered the sky. All the soldiers, including Bai Yun, Wu Xian, and even Nazario, who had the inheritance of the dragon race, looked up at the spaceship in shock and novelty. Everyone, stand under the black ghost in order and wait for the spaceship to collect you. Don't panic. Pay attention to the neat formation and maintain order. Teams of soldiers in charge of patrolling shouted. The soldiers arrived under the black ghost under the order. Then, they saw a light released from the center below the spaceship and illuminate the soldiers. Then, these soldiers suddenly disappeared in the light and appeared in the interior of the black ghost. Groups of soldiers boarded the black ghost. A moment later, only Zhou Zhou and Bai Yun were left outside the spaceship. "My lord, let's get on the spaceship first," Bai Yun said respectfully. "Let's get on the ship." Zhou Zhou nodded and called for Bai Yun to come under the spaceship. After a flash of light, when Zhou Zhou and Bai Yun could see their surroundings again, they had already appeared in the Black Ghost. My lord, the room you're in now belongs to the captain's room. Here, you can instruct Wenya to do whatever you want within your authority. Wenya will serve you at any time. Wenya's voice sounded in Zhou Zhou's heart. What's the upper limit of my authority? Are there any restrictions? Zhou Zhou asked. The upper limit of your authority is unlimited. All of your orders are not restricted within Wenya's ability. Wenya said respectfully. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. Then, he looked at his surroundings. After looking at it for a moment, he could not help but click his tongue in wonder. This very spacious captain's cabin not only occupied a very large area, it was also the size of a football field. Moreover, its internal facilities were complete, such as a bathroom, study, kitchen, bedroom, dining room, life detection and anti-reconnaissance radar room, driver's cabin, and energy room. There were even a cultivation room, a gym, a projection room, a meditation room, an entertainment room, and other rooms that were unrelated to the function of the spaceship. The folding space technology is also used here, right? Zhou Zhou looked around and said. Zhou Zhou looked at the vast captain's cabin. This captain's room alone would occupy a quarter of the entire Black Ghost without spatial folding technology. Yes. The entire captain's cabin only takes up 1/1000th of the entire whole space volume because of the spatial folding technology, making full use of the space inside the ship and ensuring sufficient energy. The Black Ghost can accommodate 200,000 human life forms for a year. A large virtual screen suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Zhou when you finished speaking. The virtual screen was divided into 10 divisions. Each division had 5,000 blazing sun army soldiers inside. He could clearly see their expressions through the virtual screen. He could clearly feel their surprise towards Black Ghost. Zhou Zhou nodded inwardly. My lord, where are we going? Wenya asked. White Silver Tier Region Territory, Dust Wasteland. After saying that, Zhou Zhou handed the area map to Wenya and asked her to make a copy and store it in her data center. Previously, they had withdrawn halfway and stopped attacking the White Silver Tier regional territory of Dust Wasteland because of the Night Lord's surprise attack. Now that the trouble had been resolved, he naturally had to continue his previous journey. Yes, my lord. Wenya said respectfully. Let's go now. Zhou Zhou said. As soon as he finished speaking, lines of text appeared in front of him on the virtual screen. As you command. Black Ghost is setting sail. The destination of this journey is White Silver Tier Region Territory, Dust Wasteland. Distance, about 174 kilometers. Time required, 2 minutes 24 seconds. My lord, please wait patiently. Zhou Zhou did not pay much attention to the first half of the sentence. However, when he heard that the time required was only more than 2 minutes, he was immediately shocked. How many minutes will it take? He immediately asked. 2 minutes and 24 seconds. This error will not exceed 0.01. Wenya said. Oh my god. Zhou Zhou could not help but click his tongue. Without the help of external forces, such as Wu Xion's military formation or other treasures and skills, his Blazing Sun army would take 2 hours to go from Blazing Sun City to the edge of the withered forest plains. On the other hand, Black Ghost only needed more than 2 minutes. This efficiency increased by a total of 60 times. So this was a bronze-tier advanced-grade spaceship? Zhou Zhou expressed his love. Depart, he said.
Yes.
As the spaceship set off, Zhou Zhou could not help but fantasize about the future where his efficiency in conquering regional territories would double with the help of the Black Ghost. At this moment, he suddenly transmitted a message from afar. Have Zheng Fugue and the others arrived at the Sandstorm Forbidden Land? Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. Wenya, call me when you get there. I have something else to do. He said. Yes, my lord. Wenya said respectfully. Zhou Zhou nodded and closed his eyes. His consciousness appeared on the Bloodbat avatar more than 300 kilometers away. Green Bronze Tier Calamity Forbidden Land. Sandstorm Forbidden Land. A caravan of 51 people and 30 carriages was standing at the edge of the sandstorm forbidden land. It was the mysterious caravan led by Zheng Fuguei and the accompanying archaeologist, Zhou Zhou. At this moment, they were all respectfully surrounding a blood bat standing on the carriage with its eyes closed. They were quiet, their expressions solemn and respectful. Coupled with their mysterious clothes that were like the starry sky, it was as if they were welcoming the relocation of an astral world evil god. Soon, the blood bat with its eyes closed opened them. "Greetings, my lord," everyone said in unison. "Good work." The blood bat nodded. It was Zhou Zhou, who had just transmitted his consciousness. This was not the first time he had controlled a blood bat, so he quickly adapted to his current state. Then, he looked around and his gaze quickly landed on the sandstorm not far away. More than 1,000 meters away. Yellow tornadoes were constantly entangling, gathering, colliding, and splitting. There were countless of them. At a glance, Zhou Zhou seemed to see a doomsday world formed by a tornado and sandstorm. The wind howled endlessly. The ear-piercing and sharp sound of the wind even made Zhou Zhou's eardrums ache. Even though this was only the eardrums of the bloodbat avatar, it made Zhou Zhou realize that the sandstorm forbidden land was not ordinary. As expected of a natural disaster forbidden area, Zhou Zhou thought to himself, "How do we get in?" The bloodbat looked at Zheng Fuguei. "My lord, please follow us. Also, before entering, I need to disguise the two of you." Zheng Fuguei's voice was low, like a god speaking in the starry sky. He was no longer as honest and kind as before. Bloodbat and Zhou Zhou looked at each other and nodded. Zheng Fuguei stretched out his right hand that was formed by the starry sky and waved it gently at the two of them. Seeing this, then he saw a caravan uniform identical to the one on the mysterious caravan gradually appeared on the bodies of the bloodbats and Zhou Zhou. It was just that the size was different. "You can enter this way, and you don't have to worry about the king of undead wondering about the true identities of the lord and Zhou Zhou." Zheng Fuguei chuckled. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. Then, Zheng Fuguei led everyone in the carriage towards the sandstorm forbidden land without hesitation. When they got closer, everyone suddenly seemed to have passed through a water wall and walked straight into the sandstorm forbidden land. Below the sandstorm forbidden land, in a dilapidated ancient ruin, there were many collapsed buildings, the corpses of life forms, and various products that had long become rotten. Among these were some damaged old murals carved on a yellow wall, which was especially eye-catching. At this moment, in the air, Zheng Fuguei, Zhou Zhou, and the others walked out of the ripple one after another as a ripple spread out. It feels a little similar to spatial teleportation, but it's also a little different. Zhou Zhou thought, "My lord, we used our mysterious caravan's unlimited rite of passage to enter this place directly. Next, we just have to pass through that spatial teleportation array and teleport underground. Then, we can see the undead couple." Zheng Fuguei said directly to a spatial teleportation array not far away that emitted a faint silver light. Zhou Zhou looked at the spatial teleportation array and nodded. He was about to bring people to the spatial teleportation array. At this moment, he suddenly saw Zhou Zhou lying on the wall, looking at the mural in front of him in surprise. Did Elder Zhou find anything? Zhou Zhou temporarily dispelled the idea of setting off immediately and came to his side to ask politely. "It's not a big discovery, but I roughly know their origins if there's really an undead kingdom below." Zhou Zhou said. "Pray tell." Zhou Zhou was interested. In any case, he was not in a hurry, so there was no harm in listening. As the saying goes, if you know both your enemies and yourself well, you will not be defeated in 100 battles. Then, Zhou Zhou began to tell Zhou Zhou, "My lord, you should still remember what I told you last time about the 5 generations of kingdoms ruling under our feet, right?" Zhou Zhou asked. "I remember. Ever since the rise and destruction of the Sand Empire more than 8,000 years ago, this land under our feet has experienced another 4 generations of kingdoms. The latest kingdom is the Aurora Kingdom, which borders our territory." Bloodbat said. Its voice was a little sharp. Gubo nodded and pointed at the murals. This mural describes the history of two ancient kingdoms that have ceased to exist. One of them is called the Violent Storm Kingdom, and the other is called the Ancient Gold Kingdom. If the four kingdom eras after the Emperor of Sand are called the four kingdom eras, then the era they belong to is the second generation of kingdoms after the Sand Empire. They were about 3,000 to about 4 years ago. It doesn't say much else. The content on this mural roughly describes that these two kingdoms were mortal enemies in that era. The content on this mural roughly describes that these two kingdoms were mortal enemies in that era. The prince of the Violent Storm Kingdom and the princess of the Ancient Gold Kingdom developed feelings for each other because they fought many times on the battlefield. The two of them were already tired of war, so they wanted to use a union between them to resolve the hatred between the two countries. But the enmity between the two countries is already deep. How can a man and woman in love resolve it? That's not all. The union of the two was also strongly opposed by the higher-ups of both countries. Eventually, this pair of prince and princess stabbed each other to death with their swords and died for love together. But to the two countries' surprise, after they died, their souls became powerful, vengeful spirits. This pair of vengeful spirits destroyed the Violent Storm Kingdom and the Ancient Gold Kingdom and turned the dead citizens of the two countries into their undead citizens. After that, the vengeful spirit couple who destroyed two kingdoms woke up to their senses. After they saw this scene, they finally decided to seal themselves and all the undead citizens deep in the ground and use storm magic to transform the area where the sealed place was into a natural disaster forbidden area in order to save themselves and not let these undead hurt others. This is the origin of this sandstorm forbidden land. As for the vengeful spirit couple, they are the king of eternal silence and the queen of eternal silence. Zhou Zhou and the surrounding people fell silent. The bloodbat sighed softly. Zhou Zhou did not expect this. These undead creatures actually had such a sad story. According to the ancient books, after the Violent Storm Kingdom and the Ancient Gold Kingdom were destroyed by two nameless powerful vengeful spirits, they disappeared without a trace. Even their corpses disappeared. This has even become an unsolved historical mystery. I didn't expect the real reason to be like this. Gubo also sighed. As soon as he finished speaking, an energy fluctuation appeared in his body before disappearing. The bloodbat was stunned. Then, he opened his personal information and realized that the other party's archaeologist level had increased from the previous white silver tier elementary grade to white silver tier advanced grade. He was a little tongue-tied, and there was nothing much to say. This was what life professions were like. It was different from combat professions that needed to accumulate promotion energy bit by bit. Once a life profession made a breakthrough in innovation, it was very likely to increase by more than one grade. It was normal to increase by a few grades. As an archaeologist, Zhou Zhou even felt that it was too little for Eldergu to crack an unsolved historical mystery and raise it by 2 grades. That was indeed the case. After a moment of silence, Gubo smiled at the bloodbat. If I publish the historical answer here, I'm afraid I'll directly be promoted to a yellow gold tier or even white platinum tier archaeologist. Are you going to publish it? Bloodbat asked. I'm not going to publish it. If the truth is really as the murals say, I'm afraid this place will be in chaos if I announce the truth about this place. Gubo shook his head. The bloodbat nodded. There were not only the undeads of the 2 kingdoms here. It also had all the wealth accumulated by the 2 kingdoms. Just as old Gu had said, if the others knew the truth of this place would indeed be in chaos. Even his territory might suffer. Moreover, he wished that these 2 kingdoms would never come out. Otherwise, he would be the first to suffer if they had any bad intentions after coming out, since his territory was connected to this place. He was a small faction that was not even a kingdom. He could probably not resist in front of these 2 big shots who could even destroy 2 kingdoms. Then, he did not say anything about keeping it a secret. Elder Zhang, don't sell the matter here as information. The bloodbat flew to Zhang Fugue's shoulder and smiled. Yes, my lord. Zhang Fugue said respectfully. Bloodbat nodded. Then, he suddenly remembered something. By the way, How did you get in if this place was sealed? Is it also because of the unlimited rite of passage? Bloodbat asked. Yes, my lord. As long as it's a secret faction that our mysterious caravan knows about and its faction level is below the kingdom level. No matter how secretive it is, we have the right to enter and conduct business. But it's only limited to doing business. It can't do anything else? Zhang Fuguei said. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. Even though there were some restrictions, this unlimited rite of passage still felt ridiculously strong. My lord, Mr. Gu, we can talk about these things outside the seal. But if you enter the spatial teleportation array, it's equivalent to entering the sealed kingdom of eternal silence. We have to be careful when the time comes. Otherwise, the identity of the Lord and Mr. Gu might be seen through. Even though they might not do anything because of our status, there might be accidents. Zhang Fuguei said seriously. The Bloodbat and Gubo nodded. The two of them, especially Zhou Zhou, could naturally feel Zhang Fuguei's sincere concern and care. After that, everyone did not say anything else and walked into the spatial teleportation array. Eternal Silence Kingdom. After Zhou Zhou saw his surroundings again, he realized that he had arrived at a dead city. In this city, tailor shop, blacksmith shop, carpenter shop, grocery store, jewelry shop. There were all kinds of buildings. Moreover, they were all functional blueprint buildings, not self-built buildings. However, even though the buildings were complete, there was no one alive here, and the aura of the undead was extremely strong. The dim green light illuminated the city, and coupled with the dead atmosphere, it made this place look a little eerie and terrifying. Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. His sixth sense was astonishing. He could sense that a large number of undead creatures were sleeping in these buildings. Tap, tap, tap. A pair of undead knights wrapped in black undead aura galloped over on undead warhorses. After coming close, leading undead knight jumped down from his horse and walked in front of Zhang Fuguei. Welcome to the Eternal Silence Kingdom. His Majesty and the Queen have been waiting in the palace for a long time. Please follow me. His voice was hoarse. Zhang Fuguei nodded slightly and did not speak, looking unfathomable. However, the other party liked this very much. He looked at Zhang Fuguei and the mysterious caravan members behind him in awe. Then, he led Zhang Fuguei and the others towards the palace. Zhou Zhou originally wanted to investigate the other party's attribute information, but he thought of what Luobu had said to him before and held back. My lord, if you want to understand his information, you can check it directly. The mysterious caravan uniforms on you and Mr. Gubo are not just ordinary clothes. Even the vengeful spirit couple won't be able to discover that. Zhang Fuguei seemed to have sensed what Zhou Zhou wanted to do and sent a mental message. Zhou Zhou was a little surprised when he heard this. Then, he immediately looked at the undead knight. Monster name, faceplate, hero unit, regional Scarlet Lord. Hero title, 100 Death Cavalry General. Position, extraordinary tier heroes fate level. Territory, Kingdom of Eternal Silence. Strength level, epic tier elementary grade. Monster description, the former second general of the Violent Storm Kingdom, one of the 4 heroes under the command of the King of Eternal Silence. He is powerful and has outstanding battle records. He is deeply trusted by the King of Eternal Silence. Loots, 20 epic tier mist cores, drop rate, 100%, 1 epic tier elementary grade hero skill, undead body of 100 deaths, 300 origin crystals, drop rate, 100%, 1 epic tier elementary grade skill book, summoning undead knights, drop rate, 3%, 1 epic tier elementary grade treasure, death fog, 1 epic tier elementary grade army formation, summoning storm spirit king, 1 extraordinary grade hero inheritance secret manual, drop rate, 0.001%, 8 black iron tier lord talent crystal fragments, drop rate, 0%. Zhou Zhou could not help but be shocked after reading it. On the one hand, he was shocked that the other party was actually an extraordinary tier hero. On the other hand, he was shocked that the secret hero inheritance manual could actually be dropped by killing heroes, Zhou Zhou had always thought that this could only be dropped through a special dungeon like the Time Ruins. He did not expect it to be dropped in reality. It was just that the probability was infinitely equal to 0. But was this a problem for him? No matter what the probability was, he could make it drop 100%, which means a hero that others can't get. As long as I can find other heroes and kill them, I can obtain their hero inheritance and add another hero to my faction. Zhou Zhou could not help but be overjoyed when he thought of this. How many heroes were there? It could be said to be one of the important indicators to measure the strength of a lord. Since he could increase the number of heroes on his side by hunting heroes, then he could completely max out in this aspect. Other kingdoms, such as the Aurora Kingdom, might only have 3 or 4 heroes. With his King of Loot's Lord talent, the number of heroes in his kingdom might have reached 10 or even more after his territory was upgraded to a kingdom. The significance of using this to increase the strength of the territory was naturally self-evident. He suppressed his excitement and followed the other party to the entrance of the palace. However, it was only an ancient ruin of the palace. It was just cleaned up very nicely. Even though he could still see its former glory, it was no longer the same as before after thousands of years. After everyone entered the palace, they quickly arrived at a hall called the Eternal Silence Hall. A vengeful spirit couple in black royal robes was sitting high in the hall. Zhou Zhou looked over. Monster name: Zhou Dan, Hero Unit, Kingdom Level Crimson Kingdom. Hero title: King of Eternal Silence. Position: High God Tier Heroes Fate Level. Territory: Kingdom of Eternal Silence. Strength Level: Legendary Tier Advanced Grade. Monster description: The original prince of the Violent Storm Kingdom committed suicide because he was in love with the princess of an enemy country. Later, both of them turned into vengeful spirits and destroyed their kingdom. He became the king of eternal silence over thousands of years. Loots: 100 legendary tier mist cores, drop rate 100%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade hero skill, Eternal Loneliness Kingdom, 1 legendary tier advanced grade hero skill, Violent Storm Territory, 1000 origin crystals, drop rate 100%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade equipment, Eternal Silence Scepter, drop rate 3%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade equipment, Eternal Silence King Armor, drop rate 3%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade skill book, Summon Sandstorm Tornado, 1 high god. Tier advanced grade hero inheritance secret manual, drop rate 0.000001%, 1 epic tier Lord Talent Sphere, drop rate 0%, 6 legendary tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, drop rate 0%. Monster name: Zhou Dan, Hero Unit, Kingdom Level Crimson Kingdom. Hero title: Queen of Eternal Silence. Position: High God Tier Heroes Fate Level. Territory: Kingdom of Eternal Silence. Strength Level: Legendary Tier Advanced Grade. Monster description: The original princess of the ancient Gold Kingdom committed suicide because she was in love with the prince of an enemy country. Later, both of them turned into vengeful spirits and destroyed their kingdom. For thousands of years, she became the Queen of Eternal Silence who accompanied the King of Eternal Silence. Loots: 100 legendary tier mist cores, drop rate 100%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade hero skill, Eternal Kingdom, 1 legendary tier advanced grade hero skill, Ancient Gold Soldier Armor, 1000 origin crystals, drop rate 100%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade equipment, Eternal Silence Heart, drop rate 3%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade skill book, Golden Dawn Fall, drop rate 3%, 1 legendary tier advanced grade skill book, Meteor Destruction, 1 high god tier advanced grade hero. Inheritance secret manual, drop rate 0.000001%, 1 diamond tier Lord Talent Sphere, drop rate 0%, 3 diamond tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, drop rate 0%. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence were actually 2 high god tier heroes with the legendary tier advanced grade destiny. If not for the fact that they lived underground, They would probably be able to be promoted to being lords of an empire if they developed some more. Everyone, please take a seat, the King of Eternal Silence said. His voice was unexpectedly gentle. He quickly discovered that there were two more existences in the mysterious caravan this time. Moreover, one of them actually had a different physique from other mysterious merchants. He was puzzled, but he did not pay much attention to it. The name of the mysterious caravan resounded throughout the entire high continent and even the endless heavens. The common agreement that all living beings acknowledged about them was, the mysterious caravan only engaged in trading. They would never hurt the person they were dealing with unless they took the initiative to provoke them. Therefore, he was very at ease with Zhang Fugui and the others. Last time, we couldn't reach a deal because we weren't ready. We have to trade our worth this time. I wonder what goods you brought here for us to trade this time? The Eternal Silence Queen said. Other than gentleness, her tone was also filled with curiosity. This was their first time trading with the legendary mysterious caravan. They also wanted to see what kind of goods the mysterious caravan would sell them. Zhang Fugui did not say anything and looked at the bloodbat. The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence were also slightly shocked and surprised when they saw this scene. No wonder there were two more people this time. So the owner of the transaction had come personally. I heard that your country has a temple dedicated to Thanatos, the god of death. Bloodbat's voice was sharp. Of course. Any undead faction will worship Thanatos, the god of death, let alone a kingdom of the undead like ours. The King of Eternal Silence said matter-of-factly. He felt a little strange. He did not know why the other party suddenly asked about matters of such common sense. Caw-caw. Then you should be interested in the things I brought with me. The bloodbat's figure was enveloped in the starry sky robe, and he could not see what was inside. The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence looked at him curiously. Then, the other party spat out a spatial ring. Immediately after, the spatial ring flashed with light. The next second, a total of 1,000 fanatic believer faith divine crystals flew out and floated quietly in the air. This was a white silver tier intermediate grade skill called Object Control. It was obtained from the loot of an elemental monster called the Hanging Stone Spirit when Zhou Zhou conquered the territory. Even though it did not have many offensive abilities, it was very practical in life. That was what he was using now. When the King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence saw the 1,000 fanatic believer faith divine crystals, they immediately stood up uncontrollably. They were dumbfounded and only had one thought in their minds. Which ambitious guy slaughtered so many fanatic believers under the gods to obtain so many fanatic believer faith divine crystals? What is happening outside? Could it be that there is a huge battle between the gods? Hundreds of thousands of believers would have to die to obtain so many fanatic believer faith divine crystals, right? The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence thought of the meaning behind these things. They were immediately shocked. Only the sharp voice of the bloodbat could be heard. I wonder what you can offer to trade with me for these 1,000 fanatic believer faith divine crystals? The King of Eternal Silence exchanged glances with the Queen of Eternal Silence. Then he sat down and shook his head with a bitter smile. Honorable guest, you really think highly of me. How can we have any treasures to trade for fanatic believer faith divine crystals, let alone 1,000 of them? The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence looked at the 1,000 fanatic believer faith divine crystals with desire in their eyes. Just as Zhou Zhou had said, they naturally wanted these 1,000 fanatic believer faith divine crystals. One had to know that even God's spirits cherished their Holy Spirit tier believers. So much so that they were willing to fight other gods there his Holy Spirit tier believers were injured. Why? Because believers were the most important source of power of faith for the God spirits. The power of faith that every Holy Spirit tier believer could provide to the gods was extremely huge. The power of faith created every day by a Holy Spirit tier believer was even comparable to the total power of faith provided by tens of millions of shallow believers every day. Not only that, Holy Spirit tier believers were the purest existence of faith. Not only could they cast the strongest divine arts given by the god spirit, they could even be used as a medium for gods to walk the mortal world when necessary. Through this method, they created miracles and spread the grace of God to complete their goal of spreading their faith. From there, they could make their deity position more stable and even obtain the possibility of advancement. It could be said that the Holy Spirit was one of the most important ways for God's spirits to become stronger by collecting the power of faith. Fanatic believers were second only to the Holy Spirit tier, and they had the possibility of advancing to the Holy Spirit level at any time. It could be said that every fanatic believer was a seed of the Holy Spirit. Such pure faith also meant that their faith divine crystals could provide an extremely huge and pure power of faith. The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence had served Thanatos for many years. As legendary tier powerhouses, they naturally knew that their god yearned for this pure power of faith the most. They would definitely obtain the favor of their god if they could give these 1,000 fanatic believer faith divine crystals to their god spirit. They might even be bestowed with a divine artifact. These two legendary tier powerhouses had been silent for thousands of years, but even so, their hearts could not help but become restless facing this divine grace. However, they had their own difficulties. The first was that they could not afford it. That's right, they really could not afford it. Even though they were an existence that was on the verge of becoming an empire, however, they had never gone out to fight after all. As a result, they had never obtained a mythical tier treasure. In their hearts, only mythical tier treasures could buy these 1,000 faith divine crystals. The value of these things far exceeded Zhou Zhou's imagination. This was a miraculous gain that could only be made by a mythical tier unique Lord Talent, plus a white platinum tier Lord Talent after all. Even the Supreme Will, who created the Lord Talent, probably did not expect that such a bug combination could be born from the countless Lord Talents he created. There was another reason. That was, they did not dare to buy them. In their eyes, the karma behind 1,000 fanatic believer faith divine crystals was too great. Even though they were hidden very deeply and almost no one in the high continent knew of their existence, they did not dare to buy these faith divine crystals. Zhou Zhou naturally did not know what these two majesties were thinking. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the two of them say that. Actually, even though he had obtained many loots, there were not many that were valuable to legendary tier existences. Lord Talent Origin Divine Crystals, Death Immunity Scrolls, or Battle Campaign Resurrection Tokens were fine. However, Zhou Zhou was definitely unwilling to trade them. After thinking about it, he thought of what Zheng Fugui had once told him about the existence of the God of Death's temple in the Kingdom of Eternal Silence. He felt that the Faith Divine Crystal might be used to trade. Therefore, he took it out and tried it. He did not expect it to really work. Moreover, judging from their reactions, this thing seemed to be quite valuable and did not embarrass the mysterious caravan. Thinking of this, he immediately became confident. Why don't you take out what you can offer to determine the affordability? Even if you can't buy 1,000, you can maybe buy dozens or hundreds of them. Bloodbat's voice was sharp. The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence looked at each other when they heard this. Then, their eyes became firm. They agreed and got someone to bring the treasures up. Then, Zhou Zhou and the others saw 5 beautiful vampires with graceful figures walking up with 5 treasures in their hands. Then, they lifted the red cloth on them, revealing the treasures below. These 5 treasures are treasures that our Kingdom of Eternal Silence has preserved for many years. Only these treasures are worthy of buying these precious faith divine crystals. The King of Eternal Silence said sincerely. The corners of Zheng Fugui and the other mysterious merchants' mouths twitched a few times. Even Zhou Zhou and Gubo had strange expressions. What kind of business dealing is this? First you praised how precious the other party's goods were. Don't you want to bargain next? Isn't it obvious that he wanted us to rip him off? However, when they thought of the other party's background, they suddenly understood. Well, this pair of prince and princess had been buried underground for thousands of years and had never come into contact with commoners for transactions. It was understandable that they acted so innocently. Next, Let me introduce these 5 treasures. The king of eternal silence walked down from the throne and came to the first treasure. It was a 2-meter-tall dark blue egg. This is the dragon egg of a spectral dragon. When we first obtained it, the aura inside was about to disappear. If we hadn't placed it in the deepest underground area of the kingdom of eternal silence and been nurtured by the rich undead aura here for thousands of years, it might have completely become a dead egg. And now, it has been perfectly nurtured. As long as a soul contract is signed with it, this spectral dragon will be born and will recognize the person who signed the soul contract as its master. We will gift you a soul contract along with it. The king of eternal silence said. Zhou Zhou's body immediately trembled. A spectral dragon egg? It is not a spectral dragon transformed from a dead dragon? Wouldn't that make this a natural spectral dragon? This would be a pure-blooded dragon comparable to Nazario. Nazario's contribution to his territory went without saying. A pure-blooded dragon was already so strong. What about having 2 of them? Zhou Zhou immediately made up his mind to obtain this spectral dragon egg. Even though he was excited, no one could tell his reaction under the starry sky divine robe. When the king of eternal silence saw that Zhou Zhou did not react, he coughed awkwardly. These guys don't even fancy a pure-blooded dragon? What? They are the mysterious caravan? Oh, right, forget it. The king of eternal silence's expression did not change as he came to the second treasure. It was a class change certificate and a recruitment book. Kingdom-level combat profession, Violent Storm Spirit. It's an advanced combat profession, the Storm Mage. This is its recruitment letter and class change certificate. The king of eternal silence had a complicated expression. It comes from a monster from the ancient violent storm kingdom. It's a powerful wind element spellcaster profession. It has an extremely destructive casting ability and an elementalization ability that makes it immune to physical attacks. Do you only have this one book? The Bloodbat asked. Of course not. His expression gradually returned to normal as he said seriously. The Violent Storm Spirit is a special profession in our kingdom of eternal silence. Other than the violent storm spirits that were rumored to be in the elemental world, the only other place you can find this class change certificate in the entire High Continent is our Eternal Silence Kingdom. That's why I'm prepared to trade the right to trade for this specialty profession. Our mysterious caravan won't stay in one place, nor will we have any fixed trading partners. We're not interested in the trading rights you mentioned. The Bloodbat said. The king of eternal silence fell silent. True. He had indeed never heard of a mysterious caravan having a fixed trading partner. Even though his violent storm spirit profession was precious, he seemed to have taken it for granted. He sighed and was about to introduce the next treasure when he heard the Bloodbat speak again. Even though we're not interested in your trading rights. However, I'm a little interested in monsters that can drop the Violent Storm Spirit recruitment book and the Violent Storm Spirit class change certificate. I want to buy them. How about that? The Bloodbat said. The king of eternal silence was stunned when he heard this. Then, a hint of hesitation flashed in his eyes. He was not stupid. Therefore, he immediately had a guess when he heard this. This mysterious merchant probably had the ability to mass-produce monsters, which meant, if he really handed that monster to the other party, it was very likely that the kingdom-level combat profession's violent storm spirits would not be his alone. He was silent for a moment, then nodded. Sure. A relieved smile appeared on the king of eternal silence's face. Some things could be buried, but some things should continue to be passed down. The queen of eternal silence was stunned when she saw her husband say yes. Then, she seemed to understand something and a gentle smile appeared on her face. When Zhou Zhou heard the king of eternal silence's words, he was slightly surprised. However, it was a good thing that they agreed. He didn't think too much about it and was looking forward to it. He could have a fixed kingdom-level combat profession in his territory. At this moment, he suddenly thought of something. He remembered that the Storm Lord of the Sun Extermination Society's profession seemed to be a Storm Mage. Could it be that the Storm Lord's Storm Mage profession came from here? He felt that the possibility was very high. Then, he stopped thinking about it. The Storm Lord was already dead. There was nothing he could do about it. At this moment, the King of Eternal Silence came to the third treasure. It was a token that Zhou Zhou had just seen. It was an extraordinary tier advanced grade kingdom token. This is a kingdom token. With it, you can establish a kingdom after completing the other two conditions for establishing a kingdom. When the King of Eternal Silence introduced this kingdom token, his expression was more complicated. Even though this kingdom token was the least valuable of the 5 treasures, it was the most meaningful to him. This was the kingdom token of his ancestors, the Violent Storm Kingdom. The Bloodbat said nothing. Seeing this, the King of Eternal Silence came to the 4th treasure. It was a fist-sized blood wolf totem. This is an extraordinary tier intermediate grade treasure of the military formation. It's called the Greedy Wolf Totem. It has a military formation called the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon Array engraved inside. The person who masters this array can summon a creature called the Greedy Wolf by gathering the essence, energy, and spirit of the professionals. This Greedy Wolf avatar can directly attack the enemy. It can be said to be peerless on the battlefield. Moreover, the more professionals there are in the military formation, the stronger the Greedy Wolf avatar will be. It can condense an extraordinary tier intermediate grade Greedy Wolf avatar at best. I obtained this treasure from an outer realm life form in the past. I kept it because it has the ability to defeat the strong even if we are weak. The King of Eternal Silence said. Zhou Zhou contemplated. The name Greedy Wolf seemed to be used only by the immortal Tao civilization. Could the outer realm life form that he mentioned be life forms from the immortal realm or from the immortal Tao civilization? At this moment, the King of Eternal Silence also came to the 5th treasure. It was a golden bag. This is a strange treasure. The King of Eternal Silence said. Strange treasure? Zhou Zhou's heart stirred. This was the first time he had heard of the concept of a strange treasure. Zhang Fugui seemed to have seen through Zhou Zhou's doubts and sent a voice transmission. They don't have a specific grade, and most of them don't increase the user's combat ability, but they have all kinds of strange and unique functions. That's why they're called strange treasures. Zhou Zhou came to a realization. At this moment, the King of Eternal Silence also introduced it. This strange treasure is called the Heavenly Mist Treasure Bag. It only has one function. That's converting the mist core. It can transform a low-level mist core into a high-level mist core, or a high-level mist core into a low-level mist core. For example, put 10 black iron tier mist cores in the Heavenly Mist Treasure Bag. With the user's will, it can become a green bronze tier mist cores. If you put in 1 green bronze tier mist core, it can also turn into 10 black iron tier mist core according to the user's wishes. Even though it's not very useful, but it's convenient. Moreover, if the user lacks high-quality mist cores, they can completely convert a large number of low-level mist cores to forcefully create the high-quality mist cores they want. But it has a limit. The Heavenly Mist Treasure Bag can transform legendary tier mist cores at best. It can't be converted beyond the legendary tier. The King of Eternal Silence said. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. The Heavenly Mist Treasure Bag actually had such a function. He happened to need this ability. He sold a large number of goods through the exchange every day and often obtained tens of millions of black iron tier mist cores. Even though these black iron tier mist cores were real, it was very inconvenient to trade them. The quantity was too big after all. It would take a long time to calculate the exchange rates. With the Heavenly Mist Treasure Bag, he did not have to worry about such things. This thing was simply a natural money bag. Not to mention that it could also create the ability of higher-level mist cores. In the future, he would not have to worry about being unable to build higher-level buildings because of the lack of higher-level mist cores. In Zhou Zhou's heart, this thing was even more valuable than the spectral dragon egg. I want all 5 of them. The Bloodbat calmed down and said calmly. The King of Eternal Silence was delighted. How about the 800 fanatic believer faith divine crystals? He probed. The Bloodbat looked at Zhang Fugui. Zhang Fugui immediately understood. 800 is too much. More like 20. As soon as these words were spoken, not only the King of Eternal Silence, and the Queen of Eternal Silence looked over. Even Bloodbat almost couldn't help but look at him. How ruthless! The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence looked at each other and began to bargain. A moment later, 50, what about only 50 of them? The King of Eternal Silence gritted his teeth. Zhang Fuguei nodded reluctantly. You're lucky, he said. A forced smile appeared on the faces of the King and Queen of Eternal Silence. Then, the King of Eternal Silence asked the 5 vampires to send all 5 treasures to the Bloodbats. I'll give this Violent Storm spirit recruitment letter and class change certificate to this lord. As for the Violent Storm demon spirit monster, I'll get my subordinate to bring it over later. The King of Eternal Silence said. The Bloodbat nodded. Then, he put away the remaining 950 Fanatic Believer Faith Divine Crystals and the 5 treasures. The Bloodbat did not show anything on the surface. However, he was already extremely happy. A mere 50 Fanatic Believer Faith Divine Crystals could actually exchange for these 5 priceless treasures. Every treasure was a treasure that could make kingdom-level forces go crazy and empire-level forces tempted in the outside world. He actually bought them so easily. He could not help but glance at Zhang Fuguei. As expected of the boss of the mysterious merchant, this bargaining ability was indeed ridiculous. In any case, he did not dare to slash like this. Still, the transaction was not over yet. King of Eternal Silence. I have 2 small deals I want to make, the Bloodbat suddenly said. The King and Queen of Eternal Silence were stunned. They thought the deal was over. What deal? The King of Eternal Silence said seriously. To the north of the Sandstorm Forbidden Zone above you, it borders the territory of a lord of all races called Blazing Sun City. Our mysterious caravan once made a deal with him and agreed to help him obtain safe passage in the Sandstorm Forbidden Land, so that he and his lord forces can safely pass through the Sandstorm Forbidden Land you set up. Can you accept this deal? The Bloodbat said. That's simple. After saying that, the King of Eternal Silence flipped his right hand and took out a blue seal. Then, he handed it to the Bloodbat. This is a Violent Storm seal. Use it to stamp anything, and come to our Storm Forbidden Land with that item. We will naturally let the people from their lord's faction pass safely. Just give me the amount of Faith Divine Crystals you think it's worth, he said. This matter was nothing to him. The King of Eternal Silence did not want to appear too greedy in front of these mysterious merchants, lest he attract trouble. Then I'll have to trouble you to take care of them. This is also one of the contents of our deal with the forces of Blazing Sun City, the Bloodbat said. With that, he controlled 10 Fanatic Believer Faith Divine Crystals and sent them to the King of Eternal Silence. The King of Eternal Silence's eyes flashed. Such a simple transaction actually traded for 10 Fanatic Believer Faith Divine Crystals? It seemed that this mysterious caravan cared a lot about the deal with the forces of Blazing Sun City. Could it be that the Lord of all races had given up treasures that were comparable to or even more than 10 Fanatic Believer Faith Divine Crystals? Was that why these mysterious merchants were so concerned? At this moment, the King of Eternal Silence thought about many things. On the surface, he put away the 10 Fanatic Believer Faith Divine Crystals and nodded seriously. Okay. As long as the forces of Blazing Sun City pass through the Sandstorm Forbidden area I set up, no matter what kind of enemy they encounter, our Eternal Silence Kingdom can guarantee the safety of the people from Blazing Sun City as long as it's below the divine level. Sure, the Bloodbat said. Zhou Zhou was delighted. With the protection of such a legendary tier advanced grade king and kingdom-level faction, even if it was only limited to the interior of the Sandstorm Forbidden Zone, he still had a lot of room to operate and could do some things. For example, he could try attacking the Dark Knight Town, the yellow gold tier Scarlet Lord area south of the Sandstorm Forbidden Zone. In other words, it was the territory of the Crimson Kingdom, the Taiyan Kingdom. The Taiyan Kingdom, a Crimson Kingdom, was near his territory. The war between the two was only a matter of time. Since that was the case, he could completely cause trouble for it during the war between the Taiyan Kingdom and the Aurora Kingdom. Zhou Zhou had just had this thought. He was not in a hurry to do it for the time being. It would not be too late to attack Dark Knight Town after he had made a thorough plan. I wonder what the other deal is? The King of Eternal Silence said. The final deal would be related to a piece of equipment. I heard that your country has a fragment of the Emperor of Sand's glory scepter here. Our target is this equipment fragment. The Bloodbat said. The King of Eternal Silence and the Queen of Eternal Silence were stunned. Then, they frowned and thought about it. Soon, they were shocked and thought of the fragment of the Emperor of Sand's glory scepter. They looked at the Bloodbat warily. The fragment of the Emperor of Sand's glory scepter was a collection that had existed since the era of the ancient Gold Kingdom. After more than 3,000 years, they had almost forgotten the existence of this item. He did not expect the other party to actually gather information about this equipment fragment and even find this place. What terrifying intelligence-gathering ability! Was this the mysterious merchant? He was both surprised and emotional. I didn't expect you to be interested in that equipment fragment. We've kept it for thousands of years, but we haven't found the secret of why the Emperor of Sand is so powerful from that equipment fragment. The King of Eternal Silence smiled and said, The Emperor of Sand is considered a hero of his generation. The items he left behind are still worth trading. The Bloodbat said, In other words, what you value is the secret of the Emperor of Sand's strength, while our mysterious merchant only values the value of the items left behind by the Emperor of Sand. The King and the Queen of Eternal Silence were not surprised. The mysterious merchant was indeed like this. They did not care whether the items were powerful or not. They only cared if the goods were worth trading. The King of Eternal Silence did not say anything else. He got someone to bring the equipment fragment over and sent them directly to the Bloodbat. Even though this equipment fragment has an extraordinary origin, it's only a fragment. Just give me what you think is worth. The King of Eternal Silence said. The Bloodbat looked at the fragment in front of him. It was different from the previous fragments of a completed staff. It was a fragment of a golden staff with a water-like blue gem at the end. A text notification appeared. Item name: Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter Fragment. Item level: Special. Item effect: Sealed. You need to gather all the scepter fragments to unseal it. Item description: Legendary tier advanced grade equipment, one of the fragments of the Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter. It contains the mighty power that the Emperor of Sand once possessed. It's the third fragment. I wonder how many fragments I need to fuse to form the complete Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. Under the current situation, it was not good for him to take out the other two scepter fragments. He could only put away the fragment of the Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter first and send 5 Faith Divine Crystals to the other party. The King and Queen of Eternal Silence were also very satisfied. 2 goods that were not worth anything to them could actually be exchanged for 15 more Faith Divine Crystals. They felt that they had made a killing. The deal is over. We won't stay any longer. Let's meet again if fate allows. The Bloodbat said. With that, all the mysterious merchants stood up. The King and Queen of Eternal Silence watched this scene quietly, feeling a little dazed. May I ask, what's it like outside? Do the life forms of the world still remember the existence of the ancient Gold Kingdom and the violent Storm Kingdom? The Eternal Silence Queen suddenly stood up and could not help but ask. The Bloodbat, Zhang Fuguei, and the others were stunned. When the King of Eternal Silence saw his wife like this, he pursed his transparent lips. There's been a huge change in the outside world. The Supreme will attracted the lords of all races from the myriad worlds just to fight for the position of the Supreme Lord. The former Lord of the High Continent is no longer the protagonist of the world. The enemy is still the Crimson Overlord. As for the ancient Gold Kingdom and violent Storm Kingdom, they have become words in the history books. Some life forms will remember when they see it, but many have forgotten. The Bloodbat said, So, the world has actually changed so much after we remained sleeping for more than 3,000 years. The Queen of Eternal Silence muttered, Nothing has changed. The life forms on the High Continent still live in ubiquitous wars. Our kingdom of eternal silence is the the true paradise of peace. The king of eternal silence snorted. Then, he looked at his dazed wife. His cold expression melted, and he regained his gentleness. He reached out and shook the queen of eternal silence's transparent hand. The queen of eternal silence came back to her senses. They looked at each other and smiled. However, there was a hint of loneliness in their eyes. This era did not belong to them. They were already dead in more than one way. After the two kings adjusted their emotions, they looked at Zhou Zhou and the others again. Since you want to leave, Yin Pan, go to the hunting area and subdue 10 violent storm demon spirits. Hand them to the mysterious merchant. The king of eternal silence said, "Yes, your majesty." Yin Pan accepted the order respectfully. Then, he left. When Zhou Zhou and the others saw this, they waited a little longer. Soon, Yin Pan walked over with a gray bag and came in front of the bloodbat. "My lord, there are 10 violent storm demon spirits in this monster's pocket. Just what you need," he said respectfully. The bloodbat looked over. A text notification appeared. Treasure name, Fog Monster Pocket. Treasure grade, Yellow Gold Tier. Treasure effect, can accommodate 1 Yellow Gold Tier Fog Monster, 10 White Silver Tier Fog Monsters, 100 Green Bronze Tier Fog Monsters, 1000 Black Iron Tier Fog Monsters. Currently imprisoning, 10 White Silver Tier Advanced Grade Storm Demon Spirit. Treasure description, a spatial treasure specially used to trap fog monsters. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. This was the first time he had seen a spatial item that could imprison living creatures. They did not stay any longer and left the kingdom of eternal silence with the mysterious caravan and Gu Bo and returned to the surface. After everyone returned to the ground, they dared to go in the direction of Blazing Sun City. The bloodbat stopped everyone after walking for about 2 to 3 kilometers. After confirming that there were no living beings spying on them, the bloodbat spat out its spatial ring and took out the fragments of the Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter, the Sandman Scepter, and the Sand Corpse King's Summoning Scepter. After the 3 items appeared at the same time and were placed together, they quickly shook by themselves. The bloodbat looked at this scene expectantly. The next second, bang! Puff! The Sandman Scepter and the Sand Corpse King's Summoning Scepter suddenly shattered into countless fragments. Then, beams of light appeared and finally condensed into 2 fragments of the Sand Emperor's Glory Scepter. These 2 fragments of the Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter. One was the top part of the scepter, and the other was the middle part of the scepter. The 3 collided and quickly condensed into a slightly illusory golden scepter. The golden scepter was completely golden, and its surface was covered in tiny bumps that looked like gravel. At the top was a circular item that looked like a slowly spinning sun. Zhou Zhou looked at it. A text notification appeared. Equipment name, Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter, completeness, 67%. Equipment grade, Extraordinary Tier Advanced Grade. Equipment effect 1, Desert Protection. When using sand element-related skills and summoning skills, it can reduce a portion of the energy consumption. When using the professional skills of the Desert Summoner, the strength level of the Desert Summoner summoned will increase by 1 level. Note: when using skills below Extraordinary Tier Advanced Grade, it can reduce energy consumption by up to 50%. The reduction will decrease as the strength of the skill increases. Equipment effect 2. The world is your desert. The user can transform the terrain where they are into the desert terrain. The range and degree of transformation depends on the energy input. On the desert terrain, the user and his subordinate skill strength increases by 100% when using sand element skills. Note: this skill does not affect Equipment Effect 1. Equipment Effect 3. Emperor of Sand's Empire Will. The user can swap positions with the lives summoned by the Sandman they summon. They can also temporarily replace their own will with the will of any Sandman under their command. Equipment Effect 4. Lost Empire. This equipment can guide the user to find the legacy of the Emperor of Sand. Prompt: because this equipment was found by the Lord of the Blazing Sun and obtained the recognition of the Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter, the Lord of the Blazing Sun can ignore the level requirements and directly use this equipment. The bloodbat widened his eyes slightly and was a little excited. He could actually use this extraordinary tier advanced grade equipment in advance. There's actually such a benefit to taking the initiative to find this equipment. The bloodbat muttered to itself excitedly. The effect of this equipment was not bad. Not only did it include all the equipment abilities of the Sandman Scepter and the Sandcorpse King's Summoning Scepter, but some of the equipment abilities had also been greatly enhanced. Moreover, it had an additional, "The world is your desert," equipment ability. The bloodbat nodded in satisfaction. It was not in vain that he had spent so much effort to collect this Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter. At this moment, the Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter trembled slightly. Then it floated up, and the tip of the scepter tilted south. Zhou Zhou was no stranger to this scene. He had also obtained the same guidance when he obtained the Sandcorpse King's Summoning Scepter. This should be the Lost Empire at work. The Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter should be telling me that the remaining scepter fragments or other legacies left behind by the Emperor of Sand are in the south. The bloodbat muttered to itself. It looked south. To the south of the Sandstorm Forbidden Land was the Green Forest, a white silver tier territory. Then, there was another white silver tier territory, and then the yellow gold tier area of the Taiyan Kingdom, Dark Night Town. Fortunately, I obtained the right to pass through the Sandstorm Forbidden Land from the King of Eternal Silence in advance. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to continue obtaining the Emperor of Sand's legacy. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. Then, he put away the Emperor of Sand's Glory Scepter and looked at Zheng Fugui and the others. "You guys can go back first." "I'm going back too," the bloodbat said. "Yes, my lord," Zheng Fugui and the others said respectfully. The bloodbat nodded slightly. Then, the expression in its eyes gradually returned to normal, and it returned to its ordinary bloodbat avatar. When Zheng Fugui and the others saw this, they did not waste any more time and rushed towards Blazing Sun City with everyone. White Silver Tier Region Territory, Dust Wasteland. Zhou Zhou opened his eyes and saw a notification appear in front of him. Your pet lava dragon Nazario has killed Yellow Gold Tier Advanced Grade Wild Sand King, White Sand, Regional Level Scarlet Lord. Promotion Energy plus 8,000. Loots Condensed. Blessing of the War God. Your pet Nazario has received an additional 32,000 promotion energy. The territory of the Scarlet Lord has become ownerless. You can plunder or occupy it. The Dust Wasteland has become an ownerless area. You can become the regional lord of this area after you obtain the regional token. That was pretty fast. Zhou Zhou was stunned for a moment before smiling.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.